Hi, this is Dan Stewart for your NORAM Asset Management Market Update, Thursday, August 19, 2010. Well, it was a tough day for the markets today. The Dow ended up down 144 points, 10,271. The S&P was down 18 to 1075, and the NASDAQ was down 36 to 2178. Volume on the New York was a little over 4.9 billion shares, a pretty healthy volume, as well as the NASDAQ was over 2.1 billion shares. So the S&P and NASDAQ were both down about 1 2/3%. The Dow was down only 1 1/3%, although it fared much worse in Europe. We'll get to that in a minute. Gold was up $2.30 to $12.32. Silver was down 10 cents to $18.30. And oil was down $1.16 to $74.26. 5-year Treasuries 1.39. 10-year Treasuries 2.58, and 30-year Treasuries 3.65. Yields were down and prices were up as people were scared running to Treasuries. But now even the mainstream media is talking about this bond bubble and these historical low interest rates. It's becoming very apparent to the mainstream media, even though we've been talking about it for a long time, that this economic stimulus, none of this stuff the government was doing was working. It was just a shot of heroin. Well, guess what? The junkie is now in detox. The US dollar was up against the euro, but down against the yen and the pound. The initial jobless number came out at negative 500,000. Estimates were 478, so it was 22,000 worse than expected. But another number that really wasn't talking about in the media was the Philly Fed Diffusion Index, which measures manufacturing and business activity up in the Northeast. The prior number last month was 5.1. Estimates were at 7. It came out at negative 7.7. A complete reversal and evidence that at least the Northeast is slowing down much faster than economists had expected. Over in Europe, the Euro Stoxx 50, France and Italy were all down 2%. Germany and the UK were down 1 3/4, and Spain was down 1.5%, mostly on our US economic data. It's good to be short Europe right now. Asia was up across the board, with Singapore, India, Indonesia, and South Korea all up 1. Japan was up 1 1/3 on talks and hopes of more stimulus in Japan. Are you kidding me? Haven't they realized for the last 20 years it doesn't work? We ought to be proof of that just these last 2 years. Asia was up because their markets were just closing right as our bad economic data came out. It will be interesting to see what happens in Asia tomorrow, or more accurately, tonight. This has been Dan Stewart for your NORAM Asset Management Market Update, Thursday, August 19, 2010.